Welcome back, everyone, to today's Explainer. Man, we have a truly fascinating journey ahead of us today. So, for millions of years, the oceans were ruled by just an absolute titan, right? The mighty Megalodon. It was the undisputed king of the prehistoric seas. Until, well, one day it wasn't. It just vanished, completely and permanently from the fossil record. But as we're going to see today, the story of the ocean's apex predators definitely didn't end there. Out of the shadows of the megalodon's massive absence, another predator emerged to claim the throne. And incredibly, this one still rules our seas today.
This brings us to our central mystery, the real puzzle here. How on earth did this new hunter survive when the greatest, most dominant predator in Earth's history couldn't? It's kind of this incredible paradox. You've got an ocean where the ultimate killing machine just starves and disappears, yet a completely different, seemingly lesser predator thrives and totally takes over. The answer to this mystery is absolutely incredible, and honestly, it completely reshapes how we think about power and survival in the natural world.
Okay, let's dive into this first section, the Megalodon's successor. Because, you see, when the Megalodon disappeared, the oceans didn't just fall silent. Deep beneath the waves, a new hunter was actually already rising up from the shadows to claim that vacant spot at the very top of the food chain. And what makes this successor so captivating to us is that, well, it was not the biggest in the ocean. It was certainly not the strongest, especially not if you compare it to the sheer planet-shaking size of the Megalodon. And yet, despite lacking those physical extremes, it would go on to become one of the absolute most feared predators the ocean has ever known. So what exactly gave this shark the vital edge that the mighty Megalodon never had? Moving right along to our next section, masterpiece of marine evolution. To answer that question, we really have to look closely at its biology. We're talking, of course, about the great white shark, and to understand its massive success, we can't just look at it as an animal, but really as a masterpiece of marine evolution, loaded with hyper-specific abilities. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how finely tuned those abilities are. First off, its senses are so incredibly sharp that it can literally detect a single heartbeat of a creature hidden entirely beneath the ocean sand. Like, wow. Next, you have its jaws, which are essentially weapons capable of crushing bone in an absolute instant. And finally, its speed. When the great white actually decides to strike, it moves with this sudden, explosive velocity that is literally faster than the human eye can even follow. So you look at those traits and you probably think, well, obviously it's just a complete powerhouse. But here is the major twist. Despite all those jaw-dropping physical abilities, raw power was never its true weapon. I know, it sounds crazy, right? But as formidable as its bite and its speed were, its real, most dangerous secret to outlasting the Megalodon was something else entirely. Which brings us to our next section, the secret to survival. This is the core reason for the great white's enduring reign in our oceans. If it wasn't just about biting harder or swimming faster, what exactly was the secret? Well, it comes down to the exact difference between extinction and survival, and this brilliantly illustrates why. See, the Megalodon's fatal flaw was its massive size. It just needed enormous amounts of food simply to sustain itself. So, when the global climate shifted and its specific, large prey disappeared, the Megalodon just starved. It vanished right along with them. But the great white? It took a completely different path. Instead of relying on one massive food source, it learned to hunt almost anything. We're talking seals, fish, whales, and yeah, even other sharks. Ultimately, what we are talking about here is the great white's true superpower. Adaptation, the ability to change when the oceans change. This single, remarkable trait is exactly why the great white survived harsh ice ages, dramatically shifting oceans, and even the extinction of its greatest rival. When the world changed, the great white didn't just stubbornly wait around for things to go back to normal. It changed with the world. That adaptability is exactly why it still swims our seas today. But, that incredible history of survival leads us to a very pressing question about our modern world. If this creature is the ultimate master of adaptation, does that mean nothing can threaten it now? Is it finally entirely safe from the threat of extinction that claimed its predecessor?
Let's look at this next section, a threat unlike any other. Sadly, the answer is no. Today we're seeing a really sudden, modern twist in this prehistoric survivor's tale. This ancient master of the oceans is currently facing an unprecedented danger, and these challenges are severe, and honestly, they're completely human-made. First up, we have pollution, which is actively poisoning the very waters this ancient shark has called home for millennia. Second is overfishing.
Remember how we just talked about the great white surviving by having a super diverse diet? Well, human overfishing is systematically emptying its hunting grounds of that vital prey. And finally, habitat loss is literally stealing its home, encroaching on those exact coastal areas it desperately needs to breed and hunt.
I actually want to pause here for just a second to let the weight of this sink in. The undisputed ruler of the oceans is now fighting simply to survive. It is a tragic irony, really. Here we have a literal masterpiece of evolution, a creature that outlived the mighty Megalodon by being incredibly adaptable, and yet it's now in the fight of its life just to avoid disappearing from our modern oceans entirely.
And finally, let's touch on our last section. Deep ocean mysteries remain. Even with all these threats, we definitely have to remember that the ocean is vast, it's dark, and it is still incredibly unknown. Somewhere out there, a giant shark still alive today remains wrapped in myth. Could this mysterious modern giant be hiding a secret just as powerful as the Megalodon itself? I mean, we've barely scratched the surface of what the deep abyss truly holds. So be sure to subscribe to Prehistoric World to join us as we continue to explore Earth's greatest mysteries on our next episode. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you guys next time.